What is a black box? So a black box is generally the idea that you have a sort of an unknown change to a set of events. X over here, Y over here, and a black box in the middle. And we have an inherent distrust for black boxes, right? Especially people my age. People my age have a serious distrust for black boxes. I'm 50 years old. Younger people have a little more sense about it because we have black boxes on the ground. Like we have a black box right there running the computer, right? And we know we put information in and we get other information out, but we control what happens, right? We are the programmers of the computer. But if you don't program the computer, if you don't program the black box, if you don't know what's in the black box, dealing with what comes out of the black box is distrusting, right? You can't trust what goes on in the black box. So here's the deal. The criminal justice system is like a black box, right? Prosecutors themselves have what is prosecutorial discretion, which is the authority to make all decisions relative to prosecution. And so when we have these experiences of seeing events or knowing that events occurred in our personal lives, in our communities, on TV, and we see prosecutors make these decisions where they don't charge or where they don't follow through with matters or where they charge with much lesser crimes or they charge with 2 or 3 crimes we have a sense about, well, how did that happen? Like, how did we see what went on over here? It went through the prosecutor's office and then it comes out and it doesn't match what we see. It doesn't match what we think should be the case. And that's sort of the black box of prosecution. And that's a real problem in the criminal justice system because we don't have a real sense about what's going on in prosecutors' offices. And it extends to the practice of criminal law. We have this, so there are a couple of cases that are very important as to what kind of information criminal defense attorneys get for their clients, right? These 2 cases called Brady and Giglio, which generally cover what's given to us. Brady says that we must receive all information favorable to the defense. Giglio says we must receive all information that challenges the credibility of witnesses against the defendant. And prosecutors are under a duty, right? A legal duty to turn over that information to defense attorneys. In fact, the legal duty extends to the investigative bodies that assist the prosecution, the police force, because the police force is considered an arm of the prosecution or part of the team of investigators that assist the prosecutor. And because of that, they're considered the same team. The law requires prosecutors to know what the police have in their possession so that the prosecutor can't say at a trial, well, I didn't know the information was there because the police officers had it, or because the investigators had it, or because the DEA had it, or the FBI. Oh, oops. Well, they're not allowed to do that because a prosecutor has a duty to find that information, that Brady and Giglio information, and turn it over to the defense, even if it hasn't been turned over to the prosecutor. But that begs an interesting question. If the investigatory teams, if law enforcement, the sheriff's office, the police departments, the FBI, the DEA, if those are all part and parcel of the same organization, then how are they being held accountable? I mean, do we have an independent prosecutorial body? Do we have an independent prosecution, independent of police forces, independent of law enforcement? Or is it all one unit, right? At the federal system, it's all one unit. The Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. Plus, he's the head of all of the prosecutors in the United States. So he runs all the prosecutors and the FBI and the DEA and everyone else, right? It's all this under the same umbrella. At the local level, it's a little different. And every state's different. But in Louisiana, we have sheriffs. Sheriffs are actually political subdivisions of the state in Louisiana. They're incredibly powerful. They're not subject to the district attorney's power. And in the same token, district attorneys are not subject to the sheriff's power, although they're often friends, they're often working together, they're often, because they're the same sort of body, the investigative part of the prosecution, they are very closely connected. And that raises some big issues. Obviously, they're not the same entities in Louisiana at the very least. And so, but it still begs the question, what are we getting from prosecutors? What is happening in this black box environment, right? What kind of decisions are prosecutors making relative to their prosecutorial discretion, relative to choosing to bring a particular set of charges against a particular person? And when that person's in law enforcement, when that person's a member of the investigatory team that the prosecutor uses regularly, it's human nature not to do so in a way that's unbiased, right? I mean, we have biases we don't even understand. And so what's the sort of remedy there? And the remedy is that we get rid of the black box, right? That we require prosecutors to be open and for us to be able to see the sort of deliberative process that goes on in determining what charges to bring under what set of circumstances. But that solution is difficult because of the immunity that prosecutors enjoy. Prosecutors enjoy absolute immunity for prosecutions. So they bring a prosecution against you, they have absolute immunity. You cannot bring a prosecutor to court for a civil matter, a civil suit for prosecuting someone. Now they have qualified immunity for matters like talking to police officers or conducting the investigation itself and those kinds of things, right? And that qualified immunity has to do with not violating the law or someone's constitutional rights and those kinds of things. But prosecutors have a tremendous immunity, right? A tremendously powerful immunity. And though I'm not an advocate of removing that immunity, I don't know if that's the best solution. More candor, more explanation, more way to sort of involve the public in the process of those prosecutorial decisions, I think is important because, again, the distrust of the black box, like what's occurring at the decision level. You get an event that we see on the news and it's terrible and we think there should be some serious punishment for that. Then it goes to the prosecutor's office and we just get a prosecutor that walks up and says, well, look, this is what we're going to do. And where is the sort of need or desire for them to present that to the public and say, this is our decision process. These are the elements of the crime. These are the facts that we think we can prove in court by a standard of some kind, right? Be it probable cause standard, reasonable doubt standard, whatever the case may be. This is what we think we can prove in terms of a trial. This is the charge we think we can prove at trial. And that's why we went with this charge. And the reason we didn't go with this charge over here is because this particular element of the crime, we don't think we can prove. I mean, even something that simple would be much better than what we get normally from prosecutors. It would sort of remove the veil, right? It would sort of peel back the wall of that black box and let us see inside and let us see what's going on with prosecutors. And so I think it's something that we should think about. I think it's something that's important to challenge. And I think that in our society, we deserve, like we demand to see, we demand information, we demand accountability, we demand transparency. And that transparency is conspicuously missing from the prosecution of defendants in the United States. It's the one part of the criminal justice system in the United States that is specifically hidden from public view. That is and not maliciously so, matter of fact, it's just maybe traditionally so, or matter of factly so, but it is in fact hidden from public scrutiny. And maybe it's something that we need to look at, and maybe it's something we need to challenge going forward. How are we going to restructure the criminal justice system in this time so that we understand and appreciate what prosecutors are doing in a much more transparent and much more obvious manner? Thank you for joining us. Come back and see us again.